Hello and welcome back to the Christian Century YouTube channel. I'm John, joined today by one of our writers, Liz Tichenor, who has written a piece for us called Tenderness Under Pressure. So we're going to be talking about parenting, patience, gentleness, a lot of these themes. But before we dive into the essay, Liz, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, John. Yeah, I'm glad to be with you all. So I am an Episcopal priest. I lead a congregation a little bit east of San Francisco. I'm a parent. I'm raising an eighth grade girl and a fifth grade boy. It's an adventure. We just got them back to school. And I'm a writer. I love playing with words.
Awesome. Well, speaking of writing and parenting, you have written an essay for the Christian Century about parenting. Um, in the beginning of the piece, you're walking through a really busy, stressful day, and as a parent, and in that day, you're sitting down with a friend, Niels from the Netherlands, and you ask him what he misses most about his home country, and he says, "The parents are so kind and patient there."
Mhm.
And it hit you, really hard, hearing him say that. And I wonder if you could tell us a little more about what was hitting you in that moment. And so, I mean, another way of saying it is, what is it you aspire to do and be as a
Mhm.
parent? And in what ways is like life and culture working against those aspirations?
Yeah. It often feels like we are asked to parent in a pressure cooker, I think, in the United States at least. It was true in 2024, it's still true in 2025. There are so many demands. There's such hopes for what our kids will be able to grow up and be and do, but also do now in order to be able to get into school or do whatever it is. And so I find myself juggling, spinning plates, trying to race to keep up with my job and my kids' needs and um, my own aspirations, and it's too much. It's always too much, and sometimes that means that I have a really short fuse. On that particular day, I had thoroughly lost my patience with the getting ready for school routine. I had not yet had a chance to apologize to my son because it was on me. It was not actually about him or what he was doing. And and I think I was also feeling a sort of loneliness that comes from trying to parent a different way when so much of what I see around me is a kind of intensity, a kind of aggressiveness, a kind of tough love approach. I'm a soccer mom is another one of my identities. And one of the things I really struggle with is the attitude that I hear from some parents, not from all parents, but from some, just from the sidelines, yelling at their kids, yelling at the coaches, the ref. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of grace. And I don't imagine that the parents feel a lot of grace in those moments either. I feel for them. So what I aspire to, I think in this moment, what I will say today is that I aspire to a kind of parenting that engenders great independence and confidence and creativity, all those sorts of things in my kids, and also deep connection between us, one that will last. And so I've got an eighth grader where my kids on a regular basis remind me how little time she has left at home. And I long to be building something together that we will be able to enjoy and lean on mutually for many, 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 many years. And it's hard to know how that unfolds with grace.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. In the essay, you mentioned some words from Vivek Murthy, who at the time was the U.S. Surgeon General. People may remember reading some of these
Mm-hmm.
pieces that he wrote. And you quoted him as saying, "Raising children is sacred work. It should matter to all of us." And you're reflecting on what he said, and you said, "These words land as a core part of how we regard and raise up our young people as Christians, whether we are their parents or not." I am not a parent, so actually that sentence kind of jumped off the page at me a little bit. But I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit more about your reaction to that quote and what the what the sacredness of raising children means to you.
Well, for one thing, I'm deeply grateful to be doing this work in community, an intergenerational community, to have all sorts of bonus aunts and uncles and grandparents, many of whom are not parents themselves and have decided to invest deeply in my kids and in a direct relationship with them, not even with me as an intermediary, but coming together with my kids to create something beautiful. So I'm grateful to not be doing it alone. I think that parenting, and I hope that supporting our all of our young kids that who belong to all of us is a vocation, one that we're called to. And as I have thought more about that, and something about hearing it from the Surgeon General, right, well beyond the the places where we tend to have conversation about sacred work or about vocation, that jostled things in my mind. And what I have what I more recently what I have been thinking about with relationship to that quote of his is, and there's this idea from Frederick Buechner, a great teacher and preacher and theologian, that if you can imagine a Venn diagram, and one circle is your deep gladness, where you are full of joy and fully alive and fully yourself, and then another circle that is the world's hunger. What's hurting? What's broken? What are people longing for? And then where those two overlap is our vocation, is the sacred work that God is calling us to. And I think that a lot of parenting today, raising kids in general today, by the whole community, whether that's teachers or coaches or mentors in a church or parents or whomever, so much of that is happening in such an incredibly stressful landscape where everyone is spread so thin, and it's racing for the carpool or remembering the homework, and it's already a half hour past bedtime, or whatever it is. um, that it can sometimes be hard to remember that it's not just this huge need of supporting young people and growing up to be fully themselves and healthy and contributing good things to moving our world forward, but it's also where we find our deep gladness. That this work, it is labor, right? Raising young people is takes a lot of energy, but it's work that ideally, at least some of the time, hopefully a lot of the time, also connects with that place of deep gladness for us, and that I think is sacred.
Hmm, thank you. The last thing I wanted to ask about, at the end of your essay, you have quite a few references to community. You say that you want to
Mm-hmm.
hold on to the belief that you're not alone. You suggest that Christian parents might be able to join together and discern the path forward together. And I was just curious if you've gotten the chance to do that in your life. And maybe,
Mm-hmm.
if so, there could be some struggling parents watching this video, and just wondered if you maybe had any tips or recommendations for them when it comes to not doing this alone and having a sense of community.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only reason I'm making it through, is because we do this together. Because I have been so blessed to have people in many walks of life who who support me as a parent, who help me figure out um, who help me to figure out the way forward, who love on my kids, who sort of wrap us all up in love and sometimes bubble wrap and sometimes food and sometimes adventure, depending on what a given day requires. I mean, this is probably obvious, but my honest answer is that communities of faith are really, really good places to find this. It's in my experience, it can be pretty difficult to find other intergenerational spaces. And one of the things that I most love about raising my kids in a church, and it could be, I mean, it could be any community of faith, and I'm sure there are other community spaces like this too, but by raising my kids who know people who are parenting kids 10 or 20 years older than them, or people who are now grandparents, or people who are amazing aunts and uncles and have then even more energy and creativity to give to my kids. It gives my kids more connection and resource and options of people to go to when they don't want to come to me. And it also gives me people to come to when I need a sounding board or when I need reassurance that this whole enterprise isn't broken. That yeah, that's actually a pretty normal thing to have happen when you're raising a middle school or whatever it is. And I think even more than that, being able to be in community with people who agree that all the kids belong to everybody in the community. That they're not just mine. They're not just my blessing, and they're not just my problem. When my daughter was born, we I was a seminarian still, and there were a number of we lived in a second floor apartment, and on the first floor of the building lived a number of quite elderly Franciscan monks. And they all referred to my daughter Alice as our baby Alice. How is our baby doing today? What is our baby up to right now? And I think that that is how we need to approach it. That shared responsibility, and then also that shared joy that I have in my congregation here. I have Chuck, who is continually masterminding new paper airplane designs with my son. I have other folks who are shepherding my daughter as she moves deeper into playing music as part of our worship services. They have people checking in on them, and that makes it easier for me to be present and gentle with them and gentle with myself, and settle into the sacredness of this work.
Well, thank you for this conversation today and for writing this essay. Anyone out there who missed it, the link to the essay will be below in the video description, along with the link to Liz's website, where you can also learn more about her book. Um, yeah, thank you so much. It's been great to chat with you, Liz.
Absolutely. Thank you, John.